Okay, are you guys ready for Jackie? Jackie!
You're going to stay close to the mic. Thank you. Okay. Stay really close to this mic so it picks up. And you need to leave in the stand. Okay.
My father was a very practical man. By training, he was a civil engineer and a fire chief. So he was good at stuff, you know? Like around the house, he was the guy that was in charge of stuff. He was in charge of anything mechanical, electrical, anything that involved plumbing or the cars or the outside of the house. My dad did all of that. And, you know, since he was so good at it, I didn't particularly bother to learn a whole lot of that stuff myself. So when my father, rather shockingly, passed away when I was 16 and a junior in high school, my mother and I were left behind in this little house, wandering around in this cloud of grief and shock, and in the midst of that, trying to figure out how do we do the stuff? How do we do all the everyday things we're supposed to do in this house that we don't know how to do? So I came home from school one afternoon. My dad had died in the winter, and this was in the early spring. It was still chilly out, and I came home, and I noticed one of the little boys from the neighborhood was out in the backyard. What's he doing there? So I went out. Little Brian is about 8 years old. He says, "You've got a cat up in the tree." And I look up. Sure enough, there's a little cat up there crying away. He said, "Don't the firemen get the cats out of the tree?" I thought, is that what I'm supposed to do? So I went inside. I said, "Hey, Mom, we've got a cat in the tree. Should we call the fire department?" She says, "Your father was a fire chief. Do you think he'd let me call some firemen for a cat?" I went outside. "Hey, Brian, we're not calling the fire department." That's a no. Let's think of something else. What should I do here? So I went and got my dad's big ladder, and I put it against the tree, and I thought, I'll climb up that tree, and I'll just grab the cat. So I go up the tree, and I'm not big enough. The cat won't reach. She won't come to me. So I come back down, and Brian's still waiting, and I said, "You know, I've never had a cat, but I think cats don't like water. So maybe I could get the hose, spray some water on the cat, and that would make the cat jump out of the tree." Great answer. Brian loves this. So I go in the shed, and I find the super long, hose, and I hook it up to the spigot, and I go back out to the tree. "Okay, Brian, zip up your coat. You might get wet. Hang on there." I climb up, I pull the trigger on that thing, and nothing happens. There's no water. I come back down, I go over to the spigot, I play with it, no water is coming out. Okay. I said, "Brian, look, it's starting to get dark. I think I'm probably just going to give this up." And he said, "Yeah, too bad your dad's not here. He'd know what to do." Well, that stiffened my spine. So I said, "Wait here, little boy." I went inside. I said, "Mother, how come there's no water coming out of that spigot?" She said, "Well, I think your dad would turn the water off to the outside spigot in the winter so the pipes wouldn't freeze." "Wait, is this about that cat?" And I said, "No, it's fine, Mom, thank you." So I go down to the basement, and from the basement window I can see into the backyard, little Brian's still out there pacing around. And I look on the wall, and there's all these valves, and they lead to things, I don't know what they are. And I'm standing there thinking, these are probably for the water, but which one am I supposed to turn? If I turn off the water to the kitchen, my mother is going to kill me. How do I know what to do? And I just got a little overwhelmed, and I got mad. I said, "Dad, how did you leave me here not knowing anything? I don't know how to do this. I don't know what we're supposed to do now. I don't know anything. I don't know if there's going to be money to send me to college. I don't know if we're going to have to sell this house. I don't even know how to get a cat out of a tree." And then I looked at those valves again, and the wall behind them was painted concrete. There were some markings on the wall. And I leaned in, and in my dad's perfect block printing, written on the wall, "When you need to turn the water on in the spring, turn this valve." So I turned it, and I heard the water. I went outside. "Okay, Brian, let's do this." I get the hose again. He zips up his jacket. I go back up that ladder. He positions himself. I get that cat straight in my sights. I pull. Kabam! All this water pressure comes pouring out of this thing, knocks the poor cat clear off the branch. Brian tries to catch her, but the claws coming at him kind of scare her. So she kind of bounces off of him, but she lands, no worse the wear, flicks the water off and goes off and does her thing. Brian says, "That was great." He goes home to dinner. I put away the ladder, I put away the hose, and I go into dinner myself. Now, I don't remember ever seeing that cat again. I certainly never saw her up the tree. So perhaps she learned a lesson there. But perhaps I did too. That maybe, with a little bit of extra help, maybe I could figure things out. Thank you.